Hello everyone, welcome to our another one event. I hope you can hear me and see me well. Uh, if yes, it would be great if you send some plus in the comments or something like this. Yeah, I can send comment by my own actually. Oh, okay. Thanks, Alexander. Yeah. So today we will talk about one buzzword. It's not AI. Yeah, it's another buzzword we have last few years. It's a few years, not few years, maybe two. We will talk about Jetpack Compose. We have speaker Dmitro, which will present his opinion and his experience about this cool technology. So let's welcome our speaker,
Yeah,
Dmitro. Hello.
yeah. Hello,
can you,
everyone.
yeah, can you see me well?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can.
Okay, Dmitro, please tell a few words about yourself and why did you choose this topic? Why do you think it could be interesting?
Yeah, hello, everyone. My name is Dmitro Medveduk. Uh, I have been working in EPAM about 1 year. Uh, I will tell some words about me through the presentation, but I've checked this topic. Uh, I would say because it's, first of all, it's really cool thing in Android development. Depends on relates to UI creating. It's something new. It's something really modern, fast, and it is what I use in my own project and working stuff. So I would say it very useful for people who uh, haven't meet already this stuff. So that's why.
And you have this technology, I mean, Compose at your current project, right? Which you are working on.
Yeah.
Oh,
We totally drive our project on Compose. We use it in current project in production. So it
so you
is.
already have your hands a bit dirty, yeah? Okay.
I wouldn't say they're dirty, but yeah, I have touched a bit this thing.
Okay. Okay, let's go on. Let's move on. I mean, I am adding the presentation and I will be around. So let's start.
Mhm. Uh, Hello all. One more time. Today I'm going to talk to you about using Jetpack Compose in modern Android development. Uh, this presentation not for people who already deeply dive in this technology. This presentation mostly for people who want to meet Jetpack Compose. Maybe someone think about uh, how to use it, what is it. Maybe someone's want to migrate from XML to Jetpack Compose. So today I am going to tell about what is it, how it can be used in your project, and how to work with it. So let's start. Today's agenda. Uh, First of all, we will discuss what is Compose and how to work with it. After that, I'm going to compare creating UI using Compose and XML, and we will compare these two stuff. After that, I will discuss advantages and disadvantages of this philosophy. And the last one is Compose in 2023, and should we migrate to it or maybe not? So I will tell you my thoughts about it. A couple of words about me. For now, I've been working in IT about 9 years. My first programming language was C++. Uh, I was working with it about 2 years, maybe. And after that, 7 years, I've been working in Android development and more than 1 year in EPAM as a senior Android developer. So what about Compose? What is it? As you can see on the slide, I call it new philosophy of UI development because it's really something new, something modern, something different. If we're talking about Compose and comparing with XML tags, generally we were using XML tags a lot of time from the start of creation Android system. But for now, I would say it's not deprecated, but something close to it. And today I will tell you why. So what is Compose and how Google describes Compose? First of all, they tell us that describe what, not how. When we are creating our UI screens or activities fragments using XML tags, we using XML files, we use XML tags and we describe how it will looks like. So we define some properties, some stuff, sizes, and so on to describe how it will looks like. But in Compose philosophy, we do not describe how, we describe what does it mean. We have some in each moment of the time we have some state of our application. For example, when we start our application, we have some state. When we push button, we have another state. It's something close to MVI architecture, if we're talking about this. And Jetpack Compose is really comfortable in this way. And it, if you one time understand it, it looks really easy to use it. Another statement that Google provide us, it state controls UI. It's what about I said already. So we have some states of our application and our UI elements reacting of this state somehow automatically. We do not have to change something by ourselves. It will be automatically. The most difference, huge difference, if we're comparing with XML tags, UI elements are functions. Because when we use an XML, our UI elements were classes. We define it in XML tags, but through the compilation, we had objects and we somehow worked with it. But for now, all of our UI stuff is functions. So if you want to display some text, button, checkbox or something, you just have to call one function, provide some parameters in it, and that's it. You can use it in your own way. And the last one, events control state. What is it? It's when our UI elements relates to the states, we have to change the states to changing our UI. So we have some events. For example, it could be everything, push the button, swipe, updating some data, so on and so on. And each of this stuff will change our states. And after that, our UI elements will change also. So what is composable function? Every UI element, as I said previously in Jetpack Compose, is function. And if you want to use this, if you want to describe your own function, you have to mark it with composable annotation. And Kotlin will know that this function uses to describe some UI element, and Kotlin have to display it somehow on the screen. It is, as you can see, it is really easy. So to show some text, you just have to call one function. That's all. You don't have to describe XML or something like this. You just have to call some function, and that's all. It's really easy. It's really comfortable, and so on and so on. Every composable function have a lot of different properties, which you can use to describe, to customize your elements. You can provide all of them, I don't know, size, background color, blur, shape, and so on and so on. It will be provided by parameters of your function. We will see it later. And every function is very understandable, I would say, because if you if you don't know some properties of XML tag, you have to, I don't know, Google it, for example, or something like this. But when you're using this composable functions, it's Kotlin. You can see what properties it can take, and you can guess what you really need, and you can try to use it. So it's really cool, I would say. Also, every composable function could be previewed on the screen, not on the screen, in your studio. You can see how your function will looks like. We will see it later on the next slides. So let's go on. Every composable Jetpack Compose have some amount of different layouts. Most of all of them could be related to general layouts from the XML files. For example, box, it's something like frame layout in XML. Row and column, it's something like linear layout, where you can place your items one by one through the row or through the column, for example. Also, we have lazy column. Lazy column, it is something like recycler view from the XML. When we have to, I don't know, huge list of items, and we don't want to load it by one time, so it will be loaded when you're scrolling. So it's something like this, yeah. Also, we have constraint layout. It is pretty the same that constraint layout in XML tag. From my experience, I do not use constraint layout because 4 layouts above is enough to create some UI, I don't know, activity or fragment, for example. But there are some, I would say, special screen UI, screen design when you have to use constraint layout. Also, you have to use some constraint between the items. You can use some animations and so on. So it's provided by Jetpack Compose. And the last one, layout, called scaffold. I would say it may be most powerful view group from the Jetpack Compose. As you can see, in parameters, we can provide some elements that takes our top bar, bottom bar, and so on and so on. I have to say that maybe not every, but mostly every Jetpack Compose function takes as parameter content that also a composable function. It is really useful. It's cool stuff. You can provide not only, you do not have some restriction what you have to put in function. For example, let's go back. Yeah, slot API. This philosophy called slot API. For example, if we have some, I don't know, button, for example, when we use XML tags, we have to describe, for example, text, maybe icon before text or after text to place on this button to see what is it. In slot API, we have no any restriction what we have to display on this button. We can provide to button every UI element we want. So we can place on the button icon, image, I don't know, list, column, whatever you want. It's really cool because there are some cases where we have some custom design of UI where we have to put these elements in some different ways or something like this. So for now we have no any restriction to put any composable functions as parameter to another one. It's really cool. Also, as you can see, one more word about scaffold. This layout can place some elements as usually our users want to see it. For example, top bar will be on the top of our application, bottom bar on the bottom. As you can see, we have some floating button we can provide to this layout, so it will be placed on the bottom right, of our application, and you don't have to place these elements on each screen, on each fragment or activity by yourself. So it will be automatically. Of course, you can customize all these elements. You can change them their I don't know, height, placement, padding, or something. It is very flexible, but the common structure of your screen will be the same on all the screens, and it is really useful. Also, you can see the first parameter of this function is modifier. Modifier, it is, I would say, it is most useful parameter through the all composable function. Modifier is interface that provides some properties to your UI elements. Through this modifier, you can provide all of them: height, weight, background, shape, elevation, a lot of this stuff you can provide through this modifier. As you can see, modifier is interface with 6 functions, and there is no any properties, as I said before. But if you try to use modifier, you can see plenty of different functions that could be provided through this modifier. It works as builder, so you can use all of them or just some part of them in every function. It works as extension functions of this modifier interface. So there are a lot of already created functions that you can call, and you can provide it in your functions. You have to be very careful when you use these properties, because when you create your application with XML tag and you define some properties, there is no matters in which order this property is placed in the XML mostly, but it will be works. But when you use this modifier, each function will be called in that order that they placed, so one by one. So you have to be very careful, because, for example, if you I don't know, want to place some padding, and if you want to place some, for example, background color, for example, if you if you firstly call function, for example, padding, and after that you will call background color, So you will see the some background that that will be cropped, and after that, a cropped area will be with some background color. And if you call firstly background color, and after that, for example, padding, you could see different results because of order of this function. So you have to be careful to use these functions. Also, you can provide your own extension functions if you want to create some customized properties for your view or UI elements. You can also provide your own extension functions to this modifier and use it as you want. There is a good manner to have modifier as first parameter of each function, and for use, and you have to use it inside your function, because when you wrote some, I don't know, custom UI element which will be used in another application, developers could want to customize it somehow. So you have to provide this modifier, and you have to use it inside another element if you have inside your function. So be careful and use it, of course. Of course, you cannot use Jetpack Compose if you do not use modifiers. Also, our function could takes as parameter some not only composable functions, but these composable functions could be in some scope. What is this? Scope is also interface that could describe some additional parameters or properties that relates to some UI elements. For example, when we have column or rows, this is like linear layout in XML tags. We have property called weight, for example. When we can place some element in our linear layout to fill some, for example, percentage of our place. This property will not work with a box, for example, because there is another strategy to place this element, so you cannot use this property. But if your composable function takes as parameter column scope, this column scope has extension function with this property called weight, and this function can work with it. So these scopes help us to describe some additional properties to UI elements that will be handled inside our functions. For example, box scope, it is the same as a frame layout. It has, for example, properties called gravity. Where we can place some items, I don't know, in the center, in the bottom right, or something like this. So another layouts do not support these properties, but box layout support. So it takes as parameter composable function, which is box scope. It also very useful because you can describe also your custom scopes to put in your function if you want to do it. Another one cool thing that is inside the Jetpack Compose is called preview. If you want to see how your UI will looks like on the screen, you do not have to compile your project, build, or see it on your device. For example, you just can add preview annotation to your composable function, and Android Studio will display it on the screen, and you will see how it will looks like in your application. You can change colors, text size, background, so on, some parameters, and it will be displayed in that time. So you do not have to recompile something, rebuild, or doing something like this. It is very useful stuff, I would say. Sometimes in some rare cases, it could be a little bit buggy, I would say, but it's pretty stable. And for example, we have been using it a lot of time in each project on which we work. Also, preview annotation has some parameters. For example, if you want to see how your UI elements will look like in different environment, for example, different background, with background, without background, with some different properties, you also can provide it through the parameters to preview annotation. So you can play with it, you can see how it will look like. You can provide different themes, for example, dark or white, or maybe you can have another one in your application. So it is really powerful stuff, I would say, because you do not have to go through your XML files. You do not have to compile it. You can you have all of them on your Kotlin file, and you can see how it will look like. You can change order or something, and so on, so on. So I would say it really, really interesting and powerful. There is one nuance that preview annotation works with functions, with composable functions without any parameters, as you can see on the example, or this composable function with which has to use this preview annotation can have one parameter where you can write your provider and provide a lot of different cases with different values of this parameter, for example, and you can see how it will look like. You will see some arrow, and you will click on it, and you one by one will have all the situations that you provided through this provider, and you will see it on your screen. How this states and UI works one with another one. Composable Jetpack Compose use states, as you can see. This is interface, and mostly we use mutable state. This is some. For example, you have some variable that put it as parameter in your composable function. For example, it is some text, and your function has to display this text on the screen. And when your variable has the value, this value will be displayed. And when your application is working and you change a value of this variable, your UI will be automatically changed through these values of your variable. So it is, I would say, it is some of the main things that Compose provide us. So you not have to, I don't know, you don't have to handle it or doing something with it. So you just change state of your application, you change state of your variables. So you change the values, and your UI will update automatically. So as I said in the start of this webinar, our events change our states, and our UI automatically change after it. So it is, I would say, really comfortable use Jetpack Compose with MVI architecture because it has some the same stuff with states and events and some and this stuff, and it is very, I would say, easy to use it because you just need to change your variables, and that's it. This stuff called composition. When your application is displayed on the screen, composition starts. And after that, when you change your variables, Jetpack Compose call recomposition, and your functions called another one time with another parameter, another value of parameter, and your UI is updated. One thing that you have to be careful in this area is that when you change your variable, every function where you use this variable will be recalled. So on the one hand, it's very easy and useful because you don't have to think about something. But on the other hand, you have to be careful to use your variables, because if you provide some variable to function and you doesn't use it in this function, but you provide it to it, this function will be recalled after changing this variable. So also the good manner to provide in your function should be very small, I would say, and you should provide only those parameters that have to be used in this function. Because if you provide a lot of different variables or data, it will be recomposed each time when one of these variables change. So you have to be, I would say, careful with it and provide only those variables and states that you have to provide in this function. Let's compare creating UI with Compose and with XML, for example. When we start to create our application with XML, first of all, you have to create your Kotlin class, which will works with your XML file, where should be some logic to display, something like this. Also, you have to create XML file. After that, you have to depend your XML file to Kotlin somehow, for example, by ID or something like this, because you have to somehow provide data from, for example, your view models to XML. So it has to be dependent one with another. After that, you create your UI. You create a lot of XML tags. You have create, for example, another XML files. You have to merge one to int. You have to think about how to provide data between these XMLs. So there are, I would say, a lot of heartbreaks when you doing this. After that, you have to depend your UI elements to view model. It could be data binding, view binding, or whatever you want. And after that, you have to set up values, run your project, and see how it will looks like. So relates to Compose, it sounds like a big job, a big work. But when you create thousands of these XMLs through your Android carrier, I would say it's easy when you when in each time when you know what exactly XML tags and properties you have to use. But when you're creating UI by Compose, you just create your Kotlin class. You describe your UI. It could be in this file in Kotlin class or another Kotlin file, but they are near one with another one, and set up values. That's it. That's all that you have to do when you create this UI stuff. So it really speed up your, I would say, UI development. It really increase your quality of your UI elements because you already see how it works. You can create some common functions in, for example, your core module with elements that will be used in through all your projects. It is very easy. You do not have to go through your XML files, find something in it. Also, a good thing in Jetpack in creating UI in Jetpack Compose when you working with themes. Jetpack Compose supported it, of course, and it also very easily to use it because you can also in Kotlin files describe your, for example, colors or themes or something like that, and you can use it, you can reuse it. It is really easy, I would say. What is advantages and disadvantages of Compose? First of all, XML absence. It is, I don't know, it is really cool stuff because this in XML files you have a lot of them. First of all, in your project, generally, and also if you have if you have to use one of them or part of UI of your XML, you have to split it to another one. You have to merge somehow them between another one, and it is hard, I would say. Another one advantages is this composable function is Kotlin functions, so you can use every Kotlin features as you want. So it's something like when we were migrating from Java to Kotlin, it was really cool, I would say, because from my point of view, Kotlin is much better than Java. So this is something like Compose and XML files. So if I see Compose, and for me XML it's pretty deprecated, I would say. Also, we have less code when we develop an UI on Compose because also we have less files. All parameters you can guess because you can see some hints that Android Studio provides you if you don't want if you don't remember some parameter or property of some UI element, you can just see it. So it's really good. Another advantages, of course, is preview mode. It's very powerful thing. You can see in each time of your development process, see how it looks like. You can change your environment. You can change background, colors, text sizes, whatever you want. Also, in generally, creation of your UI is really speeds up. And one another thing that is, I would say, advantage of Jetpack Compose is possibility of UI testing, because if your elements is a function, you can easily test it. So for automation, for testers, it also is an advantage. What about disadvantages? I would say it is migration, because if you have maybe some huge project where you have a lot of XML files, a lot of screens, activities, it will be I would say pretty hard to migrate. But if you do it very carefully, if you change your UI one by one, activity by activity, it could be done, yeah. But just you have to be very carefully and do it particularly, and see that everything is okay. Also, some disadvantages, I would say, it is some components are not supported, because Jetpack Compose has been developing, and it is developing right now. It has some release versions. Of course, we use it in production code, production applications, but there are some components, for example, WebView is not supported from the box, but you can easily fix it. Also, Compose could be mixed with XML files. You could provide in your XML file tag with composable function, so it could work one with another one if you need it. It also could help you with migration, for example. Also, for now, we are working on project which relates to accessibility. Yeah, Compose has some couple of issues with it, but a lot of them already reported on Google, and Google fixing it every 2 weeks. Yeah, Google releases new version of Jetpack Compose with some fixes, with some improvements, and it is very cool because it is supported. And I would say there are a big community of Jetpack Compose. You can easily find every part of information that you want, that you have to. And it is, I would say, it is one more advantages to Compose layout. If we think about speed of displaying of UI, our application, there is no some winner, XML or Compose, for example, because it depends on situation and on view hierarchy of your application. Because, for example, when Compose started and first screen has to be displayed, I would say Compose will be a little bit slowly that XML, but when Compose library initialized, after that, I see that Compose it's a little bit faster than XML files. So it depends on the hierarchy, on how huge your application, so on and so on. Another topic that I have to discuss is Compose relevance in 2023. In EPAM company, if you, for example, if you will be interviewed on new project, or maybe on project that started in this year, I would say you must maybe met the Compose. You have to have some knowledge about this, because not all of, but most of the new projects start with Jetpack Compose, because developers see that it is very cool, it is very comfortable, it is very, I don't know, useful. So also, if we see which big companies already use Jetpack Compose, we can see Airbnb, SoundCloud, Adidas, Booking. So a lot of big companies already use it. I would say it is some mark to dive into Compose, to start to use it in maybe your pet project, maybe in your production project. And I would say Android developers inevitably will use Compose, and maybe in nearest 1-2 year, all of projects will be on Jetpack Compose. It's my opinion, I would say. So that's it. Thank you very much. Maybe we have a couple of minutes to answer some questions.
Yeah, thank you, Dmitro, for such great and inspired talks. Yes, we have some question. Let's start. I also have, but let's start from our visitors. So first one will be from Zokirion. Sorry if I pronunciate not correctly, but does modifier extension function must be composable?
No. It is modifier extension function does not have to be composable. I would say must not be. They are not composable. It's just a builder for placement of your elements inside the composable function.
Yeah, I see.
Because this function is not displayed on the screen, and it has not been displayed on the screen. This is just some properties of composable function.
Okay, clear. Also, we have, I think, couple of similar question, and guess you should guess about what topic. I believe it's easy to understand. Yeah, Yegor asked it, have you considered to try out Compose on other platforms? Yeah, so guys asking about Compose multi-platform.
As I know, for now we have already Compose multi-platform, but I haven't did do it for now because I'm just only developing on Android platform.
Yeah, iOS is in alpha version. Desktop was released, I mean, maybe more stable, but recently iOS alpha version was released, and it's pretty cool to try it, and it's interesting what will be in future. Okay, let's see another question. Question from Andrei. What about screen navigation? Is it possible to use Jetpack nav component?
Yes, of course. You can use, for example, Jetpack Compose screens as usually, and with each navigation that we were using previously with XML tags, for example.
Do you suggest to use fragments for this, or we can like forget about fragments as well?
To be honest, we can forget about fragments. We can use just screens provided by our Compose, and do not use fragments, for example.
Okay, great. Oh, some question from Maxim. Too many parameters in the Jetpack Compose function. How to resolve it?
I would say it depends on every situation, because it depends how you architect your UI. If you creating a lot of I would say, little functions that relates to some little part of your UI, it will not be a lot of function parameters. So for example, from my experience, from my point of view, we do not have a lot of different parameters. Generally, we have a modifier, some composable function, and maybe a couple of parameters from our data layer, and that's it.
Okay. Okay. I have also question about, I think, about performance. I'm not sure whether have you saw the talk from Pinterest developer at the latest Kotlin Conf, where they say that they tried a lot, but they have like pretty high standard for performance there. Pinterest application, this endless endless recycler, and for now they are not very satisfied with performance, with Compose performance. Yeah, so they like postpone migration to it. They say like they will try in with each new Compose release, but for now they like not very happy.
Yeah, as I said, Jetpack Compose is, I would say, it's a pretty new technique, and it is developing right now. So there is no, I would say, final version of Jetpack Compose, and the performance will be increased, I would say. But also it depends on project and on your requirements. Of course, if you have some, I don't know, some very a lot of different performance restriction, maybe you have to think how to use it, or maybe particularly use it, or maybe do not. But I would say in future it could be performance could be increased.
Yeah, I'm totally agree. That's a good point. That Compose, it's like a new technology, and we are comparing them it with Vue, which is developing for last, I don't know, 10 plus years. Yes, and that is why obviously we can solve some like performance issues. Uh, okay, okay. I think we don't have any more question. Then I think we can finish. Dmitro, maybe you have you want to say, to give some last thing to our guys.
If you haven't tried it yet, so I would propose to try and meet Jetpack Compose.
We propose to use Compose. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys who joined us today. See you at our next events, and have a nice day.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.